بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. I'd like to welcome you to the first series of risk management Q&A webinars. My name is Nada Al-Harbi. I'm a patient safety activist. My whole passion is really around improving the healthcare system output by applying health care quality disciplines and system thinking. The reason why I have decided to put in... Hi.
Hello. Can you hear
Hi.
me?
Yes?
Yeah, hi. Sorry for interrupting, but what they need to do is they need to install this app, and in the app, once you install it, there is a mic button at the bottom. Once you enable that, they'll be able to talk. If you want people to talk.
That's great. But I'm gonna mute all now, and I'll unmute you all toward the end. But remember to type in your questions so that you don't forget them, and then we can open the last 10 minutes for discussion. Sounds good?
Yes.
Thank you so much for your tip. And let's get back to our talk. Why risk management now? Honestly, I think with the current outbreak, with the current COVID-19 crisis, is more than ever, we need to talk about risk management, and we need to change the way we look at things, and we need to be more proactive. There has been a lot of catastrophic events happened in the world. However, our learning was not really optimum, because if we look at most of the catastrophic events, root causes of those goes back to really how the initial signs and symptoms of the problem were ignored. And that brings me here to my talk today. I wanted to start today's session, which is the first session on risk management, talking about the Italian case and how they manage COVID-19 as an introductory to our session today. Because this is the first session on risk management, it's not very deep, but as we advance and the more I conduct webinars, we'll go really deep into the science of risk management. But I want to share with you what you see on the screen right now is a quote from an Italian ER physician. He's actually intensivist and clinical risk manager in one of the Tuscany's healthcare systems. What he said, actually, he said that that he had observed in the recent 2 months is a failure in situational awareness and communication, leading to a consequent unsuccessful of leadership and teamwork. What I really liked about what he mentioned here is him talking about the situational awareness. So we know that the Italian authority didn't handle COVID-19 very well for many reasons, and I'm not here really to judge how they handled it or advise them how they could have handled it, but we always need to learn from others, and especially the failure, but also we need to learn from success. So here is one of their physicians talking about how he believed the healthcare system failed in Italy because they lacked the situational awareness and the communication. These are fundamental in risk management, especially the situational awareness. This is where it all comes. Knowing your environment, understanding what goes around you, and anticipating what could go wrong, and come up with a plan that can mitigate those failures is really the essence of risk management. So he also mentioned that, he said that we are now aware of this and trying to struggle up with solution. So why this one in red for me, and I wanted to share it with you guys, is because if you do not plan way ahead of time, if you don't have the mentality of risk management, which is anticipating what could go wrong and trying to come up with a solution before it actually happens, then you will be where they are here. Once you are in the problem, it is very hard that you find a quick and a very good fix. You would try, you're fatigued, you're compromised, you're emotionally charged, where maybe you make wrong judgment and wrong assumptions. Again, also what he mentioned also, that after the problem happened and after it hit them very hard, now they realize that, okay, we need to do something about it. So he said that their regional government and their patient safety center were trying to support them with organizational strategies. But he thought that at the time of the crisis, it was hard to realize, like, even those strategies now maybe did not fit very well. And then that left him with, some negative feelings, and you can see it from what he said here. He still believed that what happened to them was unjustifiable event, where they lacked the protection devices, the PPEs and mask and all of that. For him, that was not justifiable. He still believed that this could have been prevented by better planning. And there he mentioned that, why he believed this happened, because their leaders and the healthcare institution dealing with this crisis was not based on preventative strategies. So here comes the approach for any anticipated crisis needs to be way ahead of time and need to test it, because it could fail. You need to test it and test it and test it until you find really the good fit. Now moving from Italy to China, and again, I am not judging them, but I want to highlight a defect from my point of view. Now, at the beginning, it was like, okay, it's a global thing and it could not have been prevented. But then now lately, maybe a couple of weeks ago, China actually released a statement where they apologized to neglecting Dr. Lee's warning on COVID-19. So there was a doctor that actually anticipated a danger or risk, but his anticipation and his concern were not taken into account and were neglected. And what happened is a global pandemic and the death of this vigilant doctor. How is this related to our talk today? Because it goes back to safety culture. And safety culture is very important in the science of risk management and even patient safety. Because risk management is all about what could go wrong in the future, how our concern be evaluated and translated into action. So if you don't have the environment to support you with this, most likely that you won't go anywhere and your risk management strategy might fail. So safety culture is very important in any organization. Now let's hope that we learn our lesson here again, and we never dismiss somebody's concern because they could save life. So this takes us to the concept of safety culture, which is again the foundation for safe care. Whether we take the approach of patient safety, we take the approach of risk management or any other methodology. Now, the concept of safety culture came and originated from industries outside the healthcare. mainly, the aviation, nuclear, and a few other industries that are considered ultra safe. Now, why they were considered ultra safe? Because those industries actually perform in high risk environment, and yet they don't have that many, safety accident, let's say. So a bunch of researchers and scientists actually studied the behavior of those organizations and came up with the term high reliability organization, known also as HROs. HROs, these are the organization, the entities, the whatever you name it, even high reliable people. These are the entity that perform in highly reliable, where the error margin is very, very low. Now, it doesn't happen to them by accident. There's a lot that they actually do, but there are a few concepts and principles that make them what they are, being highly reliable organization. They are committed to safety at all levels. They never dismiss concerns, and they have standard procedure. Safety is number one priority, and that's why their failure rate is lower, considering the comparison to healthcare. So, what are those that make a high reliable organization, or how you can establish the high reliability setting everywhere, whether in the hospital, at the office, in the factory, even in your household, and even to yourself. These are a set of principles, 5 of them, that based on literature, they were the common behaviors in all those highly reliable organizations. It's not the scope actually of today's webinar to go in details onto those, but if you guys feel like you need to learn more about HRO and more in-depth understanding of all those concepts, I'm more than happy to conduct another session where we just focus on HRO, or high reliability organization. One of the most important things is sensitivity to operation. Understanding how we operate, when to operate, and how we fail is very important. Reluctant to simplify. HRO organization never simplify things. In the case of China, when Dr. Li came and said, look, I am concerned about this virus, the high reliable organization would never dismiss it, because they would never simplify and say, you know what, maybe you're thinking, maybe you are overreacting. This is simplifying. So HRO never simplify. They take it serious. You know what, let's go, let's examine. Inshallah, there is nothing wrong, but you know what, we're not going to ignore this. Preoccupation with failure is one concept in HRO being more reliable, is always you think how my operations, how my processes can fail. This is not really being a pessimistic person, more than trying to be ready at all the times. So I know all my processes, I know how they can fail, and I have plan in place. Deference to expertise is very important, where only the expert will make certain decisions. Often in healthcare, policies and decision-making are made at the top and then cascaded down. And I'm sure each one of you can relate to this, where people don't even follow those policy and procedures because it doesn't relate to them. It was not made for them, and it wasn't made for them in terms of understanding their needs and feasibility of acting upon those. So HRO understand that, they're the expert, let them talk about this. China should have trusted Dr. Li and said, okay, you know what, he's the expert. Let me listen to him. Resilience is the ability to bounce back. After catastrophe, you gain back your balance. It doesn't hit you bad, doesn't cause Let's say, for example, if there was a big fire or there was a huge loss of manpower, because they've been always preoccupied with failure, they know, okay, what if there is a fire, what can we do? So they quickly have their plan activated and they continue their operation. These are the 5 concepts of high reliable organization. Now, how are those related to our risk management discussion? What do you guys think? The HRO framework is the best risk management approach. So if you attended this webinar because you really want to work on risk management in your unit, your office, your hospital, the HRO principle can help you a lot. Educating people how to behave in those ways is the best risk management approach. So, what is risk management? Risk management, as per the ashram, is the process of making and carrying out decisions that will assist in prevention of adverse consequences and minimize the adverse effect of accidental losses upon an organization. Making this decision requires 5 steps in the decision process, and I'll walk you through those decisions. So risk management basically helps you make an informed decision. Now, how you can apply this in your life and your work is very interesting, and we'll get into that. But the ultimate aim is to increase your situational awareness. You are really aware of what's going on. You anticipate the processes that are at high risk for failure, and then you have your risk mitigation plan. That increase your resiliency, which is you bounce back. هذا يعني allow me to speak in Arabic a little bit. بس احنا ما شاء الله تبارك الله يعني كيف السعودية تعاملت مع أزمة كورونا الحقيقة شيء يدرس. فعلا طبقوا الريسك مانجمنت من البداية way ahead of time. يمكن من أولى الحالات بالصين بدينا بالبلانينج، يمكن ما كان باين كثير للبابليك، بس يمكن المستشفيات اللي احنا نشتغل فيها بدينا نفهم ايش هو هذا المرض. To increase our situational awareness بدينا نقرأ الجايد لاينز من WHO. هذا ساعدنا نفهم وساعدنا نتحضر. فأنتوا تلاحظون أن السعودية ما شاء الله يعني حتى مقارنة بالدول المتقدمة دائما one step ahead of them. Why are they one step ahead of them? Because every time they think, okay, what if this fail? What will happen? What if this fail? What will happen? فأهم شيء في الحياة إنه our decision تكون based على risk management. وعلى فكرة risk management شيء قاعدين أنتوا تسوونه، وحنتكلم يعني ما هو شيء يعني concept جديد. We're naturally doing this in our lives. As a process, this is what it is. لكن إيش تعريف الريسك لحاله؟ الريسك is uncertainty arising from the possible occurrence of a given event. We'll give you more example because sometimes definition can be really challenging. والexposure, I think إنه يمكن أكثر كلمة سمعناها بالhealth care is exposed. So الريسك هنا إذا أخذنا COVID-19 الريسك هو what is the likelihood or what is the probability إنه أنت يجي لك COVID-19. This is the risk, high, low or medium. إذا أنت بالبيت، أوكي، يعني أنا صار لي تقريباً أسبوعين بالبيت ما طالعة، فطبعاً كل شيء بأمر رب العالمين، لكن ال probability أو ال likelihood أو احتمالية إنه COVID يجيني قليلة، لأني ماني كثير متعرضة exposed للhazard. طبعاً في terms لازم نعرفها راح أحكي لكم عنها، risk, hazard, exposure and accident or incident. هذه أشياء مهمة ولازم نفهمها بالساينس of risk management. فراح نتكلم أكثر عن هذا الموضوع. فالريسك هو الاحتمالية الخطر يجي من إيش؟ يجي من الهازارد اللي هو either virus either مثلا sharps either مثلا درج أي شيء ممكن يسبب لك أذى هو هذا الهازارد. I'll walk you through some of the terminologies. Please type in if you have any questions. We can answer those. So, what is risk identification? So, risk identification is the process that involves finding, recognizing, and describing risks that could affect the achievement of an organization's objectives. It also includes identification of possible causes and potential consequences. طبعا الريسك ايدنتيفيكيشن قدام بعد حتكلم أكثر هي أول خطوة بالريسك مانجمنت. يعني أول شيء إحنا لازم نعرف وين الخطر. يعني أوقات كثير لأنه ما عندنا situational awareness. يعني تخيل نفسك مثلا بأوديتوريوم والأوديتوريوم هذا ما في إلا باب واحد. طيب this is risk صح؟ الريسك إنه ما عندك إلا باب واحد. الهازر could be fire لا سمح الله والأكسيدنت could be إنه يعني suffocation أو burn صح؟ this is risk identification هو بداية الريسك مانجمنت كيف نتعرف على الريسك around us. يجي بعدها الريسك assessment اللي هو على طول أنت تعمل calculation. طيب أوكي هذا ريسك كيف الريسك؟ هل هو عالي؟ هل هو متوسط؟ هل هو قليل؟ Is the risk high, medium or low? By understanding two things. Understanding the hazard around you وanalyzing the risk associated مع هذا الhazard. Assessment is just understanding more around الريسك. الريسك analysis هو خطوة مرة مهمة بالريسك مانجمنت اللي هي الآن أنت تبدأ تعطي الريسك value. يعني إحنا إذا ما شيء له قيمة ما نعرف نقيسه صح ولا لا؟ وإذا ما نعرف نقيسه ما نقدر نحطه بالأولويات. البريوريتي is it high priority, low priority or not priority whatsoever, right? So risk analysis here is the process used to determine the potential severity of the loss. طبعا I just want to emphasize that risk is considered loss. So if we say loss, which it's a term that's been used in risk management because mainly risk management came to prevent loss from finance. So loss is usually a term that will be used also a lot. A loss هذه is what you lose if the risk become an accident. If we put it in the context of healthcare, then loss is equal to harm. So again, risk analysis is the process used to determine the potential severity of the loss from an identified risk, the probability a loss will happen, and alternatives for dealing with the risk. In other discipline, they call this hazard analysis, and disaster management mainly they call it hazard analysis. So, what is likelihood is really the probability of the risk causing harm or becoming an accident in terms of probability or frequency. Outcome is the estimated degree of harm or damage, which is minor, moderate, major, death, or catastrophic. Risk source is really where you could identify the risks. So if you want to conduct a proactive risk assessment, risk sources is where you look at. And there are so many frameworks that can help you with this. Now, risk attitude is very important. Risk attitude is the organization approach to assess and eventually pursue, retain, take, or turn away from risk. يعني if we look at مثلا السعودية risk attitude حقها كان very positive. No, they consider it and they act upon. Other country, no, you know, they took it lightly. they didn't think it's a huge thing, you know. So this is the risk attitude, how you behave when a risk is in front of you. Do you take an action, or do you ignore it, or you just do nothing about it? Now, very important that we understand the difference between hazard and risk. So hazard is the tangible thing that could harm you. Yani in front of you in the slide, the hazard here is the shark. Yani if you are about to swim in the ocean, and you're swimming in you know, territory where known to have sharks, shark is the hazard. Shark is the tangible thing that could harm you. Now, if you swim closer to the shark area, this is the risk. So the risk is how likely this shark to harm you. If you swim closer to the shark, it's high risk. If you swim way away from the shark, then the risk is low that the shark will harm you. So the hazard is what can harm you. Risk is how likely this can harm you. طبعا considering a lot of variables, you know. Another example, مثلا lightning. If you are shielded inside the house, it's less likely that lightning can harm you, which is the hazard in this case. A risk is how likely the lightning can cause harm to you. Again, if you're shielded, less likely, which means low risk. If you are directly in the open, you know, area, then it's likely, which means the risk is high. There are a lot of examples يعني from our life. يعني احنا by nature ترى احنا also risk management oriented. يعني على السريع احكي لكم example of مثلا waking up to work. يعني before احنا we go to bed, we set the alarm. Why we set the alarm? Because we are about to sleep. And we need to wake up at يعني certain time, you know, to reach to work on time. So this is a quick risk management where we identify the hazard. The hazard in this case is really sleep. And the risk there is that you oversleep and then you go to work late. And then the accident would be going to work late, missing an important meeting, or, you know, being questioned by your supervisor. How likely the hazard can cause harm, it depends on the circumstances. يعني for example, if you go to bed early, it's less likely that you oversleep, right? وتتأخر على الشغل. لكن إذا سهران للساعة 2 الريسك إنك تصحى متأخر يرتفع. Okay? فهذه هي risk assessment, you know, إنه how likely this risk can cause harm. It's interesting what we do, يعني, but we never really يعني, connect it to scientific approaches. Allow me to walk you quickly through the risk management يعني, history. There is really long history, but I chose not to mention it today because I want us to be more focused on understanding the terms. But inshallah, in future webinars, we can dive more deep into that. So here I want to focus on risk management in the healthcare. لأن risk management بادية من 1870 يعني كconcept وبدت برا الهيلثكير. بس بالهيلثكير بدت تقريبا around the 70s لما بدت الكرايسيس of medical claims تطلع. وطبعا الكرايسيس of medical claims جت because of, you know, medical errors. It started to cause, you know, loss للorganization. Okay, وصلت يعني مستوى إن ما عاد حتى الorganization they can really pay for it. That what got their attention. بعدين بدت hospitals to look on ways to control this. يعني they wanted to control cost. بدت clinical risk. Clinical risk جت من incident itself. And okay, what could go wrong in the clinical area that can increase the likelihood إنه يصير فيها claims. بعدين بدأت الجورني حقت traditional risk management model. Organization hunted, expert, please help us with these claims. We want to reduce the claims. We don't want to, lose more money. فهذا traditional risk management. الموديل حق traditional risk management يبدأ من الريسك identification على الريسك analysis على الريسك control على الريسك financing والريسك management. على السريع طبعا more into risk identification هي الapproach للtraditional risk management too. You identify your risk either retrospectively أو prospectively. Remember احنا نتكلم عن traditional risk management. الريتروسبكتيف ريسك ايدنتيفيكيشن تولز حقتها تشبه كثير التولز حقت البيشنت سيفتي. يعني we look at reported safety event، منها نشوف شيء اسمه residual risk، نعمل chart review مع triggers. يعني نحط مثلا اوكي البيشنت اللي مثلا على antibiotic ومن عمل له مثلا antibiotic blood levels، هذا trigger لانه كان cause harm, right? Surveys, the patient safety culture survey to identify really element that can cause harm to the organization and loss. Debriefing is very important, which is after the event. يعني مثلا patient طاح fall. So one of the way to quickly, identify risk is okay. Let's get together وdebrief. احكوا لنا شو صار يعني what happened. وطبعا الروت كوز analysis can help us identify risk retrospectively. الother approach هو prospective risk identification اللي هو طبعا the right one, which is you want to identify things before they happen. Tools here is SWOT, الفيميا والSWIFT. I can discuss more if you want on those. But every one of them is a minimum of 2 to 3 hours. Risk analysis, remember it's quantifying the risk. Basically we calculate the frequency, severity والprobability. يطلع لنا رقم. الرقم هذا زي ما انتم شايفين هنا you can plot it. فobviously الأخضر is low risk, الأصفر or the yellow is a medium risk, intermediate risk orange, or high risk red. Why we do color coding, I'll tell you, is where we need to act on them and set a priority. Obviously, the risk that was identified and it's red needs to have an immediate action, right? Next to it, the intermediate. The yellow and the green are the risk that you could really accept and just monitor and see if any of those three value changes, if increase in the frequency or increase in the severity and the probability, then you can do an action. The frequency is this, how likely it will happen. والseverity or consequences is this, how it's gonna affect individual. طبعا depends on who is in hand. Are we talking about patient? Are we talking about staff? Are we talking about organization? If it's likely to happen and if it happened it's catastrophic, هذا يعتبر high risk. زي COVID-19 بالضبط. If you have someone older than 70, 80, and he is with someone positive, so it's likely that he will catch the virus, right? So this is the frequency. And the severity would be high because they're older and probably have comorbidity, so the effect of the virus is higher, which means these population are the ones that we need to protect the most. Another way to look at it is the risk assessment heat map, also one of the beautiful tools. Just by glance of it can categorize your identify risk after you do risk assessment, and really show you the threatening ones and the ones that are low risk by color coded, and based on that, you know, for especially for visual people. يعني أنا من الناس اللي مرة visual، يعني أحب أشوف الألوان، أحب أشوف يعني أكثر من إني أقرأ. على طول direct me where I need to focus on. وهذا مرة مهم، يعني إنه إحنا لما نجي نتكلم عن التقارير حقتنا when we present our report is we need to present a report that invites for action. That's another really discussion is when we present our data and nothing happened is sometimes because the way we presented things. في ناس تحب الهيت ماب، في ناس ما تحبها. Some يعني في people like it, people don't like it, but I personally like it. One of the things that also important is the risk control, which is tell us really how we can manage the risk. So once the risk is identified and analyzed, then we now come up with the treatment or the control. Do we avoid this risk? Do we prevent it? Do we reduce it? Do we segregate it? Or we transfer it? We let someone else pay for that. Remember, it's all about your resources and it's all about your organizational attitude, you know? Next is risk financing. هذا part من traditional risk management، و part مرة مهم، و part is not being really identified. يعني I seldom see that in any budget that there is a bunch or budget كده على جنب just in case something went wrong, we can use this budget. But the risk financing included planning and activities associated with financing loss. This is a bunch of money kept on the side to finance your risk. So once your risk is identified, then you know what you're going to do, and expert will help you to understand how much of the risk is still there, so you always have money on the side. A strategy might include transferring risk to another party, such as, insurer, so you pay for it. Retained risk might be also financed by insurance as well. One of the things, for example, is you have an activity that is heavily associated with risk. Then you say, okay, I still want the activity, but I don't want to conduct it myself, so you outsource it. تطلب من شخص ثاني هو يقدم لك الخدمة. Claim management is one also, the last component of the traditional risk management. Remember, يعني أساسا اللي خلى في need للريسك مانجمنت بالهيلث كير أتكلم هو الكليم مانجمنت. We don't do it much also, rarely, but I think that with the increase of the awareness of the society, we need to have a robust claim management in our organization. طبعا حتى سباهي عندهم standards على الكليم مانجمنت على الريسك مانجمنت. ممكن يكون هم fundamental of actually developing your risk management program. طبعا ايش هي الكليم مانجمنت؟ هي كل الاكتيفيتي اللي لها علاقه بالليتيجيشنز، from the reporting, investigating the allegation, determining coverage, securing counsel, managing claims and settlement, and regulatory. So claim management mainly يعني depends where you work, but mainly مع ال HR, maybe mainly مع الليجل، بس هي كيف احنا نتصرف مع الشكاوي، كيف الشكاوي هذه توصل محاكم، وكيف settlement ودفع الأضرار. طبعا as we went on and on with risk management صار في need for ابتعدوا عن ال core of the traditional risk management و became as a business itself. So احنا حاليا الآن as we speak now, we are in between the traditional risk management, which is, by the way, silo approach, mainly على الانشورنس والريسك ترانسفير، يركز كثير على الكليم مانجمنت. الهدف الأول من التراديشنال ريسك مانجمنت يمنع الخسارة، يعني prevent اللوس. والموديل حقه does not really speak to any complex problem. Emerging risk management now mainly goes around healthcare reform or transparency, touch base on other aspects like cyber issue, patient consumerism, and uncertainty and reimbursement. What you see in red is the enterprise risk management, which is now being the best model in managing risk management program. Enterprise risk management من اسمه enterprise هو more comprehensive, focus so much على strategic planning ويعتبر يعني alternative للريسك financing. الانتربرايز ريسك مانجمنت يركز على الفاليو كرييشن، عكس التراديشنال ريسك مانجمنت اللي يركز على الفاليو بروتكشن. الفاليو بروتكشن يقول انا بس ابغى احمي اللي عندي، الاي ار ام يقول لا، احمي اللي عندك بس جيب شيء جديد بعد، create new value. you know يعني for example منع خسارة، يعني منع error ومنع منع claim. احنا we protected the money, okay, but if we do it in a certain way ahead of time, value creation من enterprise risk management مو بس وقف على reimbursement, save money of the whole process. So value creation is adding more to the organization. طيب كيف نعرف enterprise risk management اللي بالhealth care? This is the Ashram definition. They define the ARM in healthcare as the one that promotes a comprehensive framework for making risk management decisions which maximize value protection and creation by managing risk and uncertainty and their connections to the total value of the organization. طيب ايش الكومبوننت of the risk management, the enterprise risk management? الانتربرايز ريسك مانجمنت عنده هذول الكومبوننتس. يشوف operational risk, which is يعني around the inadequate or fail internal processes, policy and procedure, business system and automation. يعني looks at the organization processes, the handover process, blood transfusion process, medication dispensing process, you know, what, and look at it from higher level and how those processes could fail. The other domain بالenterprise is the clinical and patient safety. And this focuses more on delivery of the care to the patient, the client, looks at specific things around the clinical risk like injuries associated with the healthcare, medication error مثلا, dispensing error. The strategic domain is more around the organizational direction, which is very important. What is, once the organization develop their strategic plan and strategic priority, the ARM or enterprise risk management evaluate the strategic plan against the associated risk with it, and then come up with a plan. Around what? Around the brand of the organization, reputation, competition, failure to adapt, and so forth. Financial is يعني واضح, is really around risk management to the financial aspect of the organization to ensure that they are financially sustainable and they can perform their functions. Looks at the access to capital, external financial ratings, revenue cycle, and so forth. The human capital is mainly around the workforce. So the ARM also focus on all the risk associated with the manpower of any organization. labor market, the competency, engagement, the culture, employee safety, and things like that. Legal and regulatory, which is a big thing, you know, in the US, but not so much here in our country, unless we consider, you know, JCI and SIBAHI and other accrediting body part of this. Also, MOH regulation is can be considered part of it, but also evaluate the risk associated and ensuring that اللايسنس الاكريديشن health department بامريكا اللي هي نفسها الMOH في السعوديه. الكومبلاينس مع international standard طبعا بالستيت زي الهيبا. التكنولوجي الدومين اللي قبل الأخير looks at the organization equipment, machine, hardware, software, virtual, electronic medical records, you know, cyber security, all the risk associated with this domain to protect the organization from failure. A hazard is the natural disaster, mainly what could go wrong outside the organization, but also inside, like the hazard, the you know, the risk for fire and things like that. So this is in summary really the domain of the enterprise risk management. You can use those domains as يعني your roadmap to conduct your risk assessment. كل واحد فيهم تحطه تقول okay, what could go wrong with this and this and this, or you can focus on one aspect. Now the frameworks of risk management, two famous ones, واحد اللي من ISO هذا we use it يعني in my hospital اللي هو framework on managing a risk management program. Mainly, if you can see it here, يبدأ من establishing the context, اللي هو understanding where the risk coming from. Is it coming from internal, coming from external? Does it affect the goals and objectives of the organization? Or at that level, on that context, determine, okay, what we need to do with this risk and how much really it affects us. And then identifying the risk by asking, you know, the W question, what can happen, when, where, how, and why, to understand the risk more and to identify it. And then you analyze the risk by, again, determining the consequences or the severities as I mentioned earlier, and the likelihood. يطلع لك رقم هذا هو level of risk. Based on the level of risk, then you evaluate what you need to do. And based, of course, on your risk appetite, organizational risk attitude, available resources, you decide how you manage this risk. More of like treating, accepting, avoiding, or transferring. Very important, those elements, you communicate and you console all the way, you monitor and you review. From my experience, these two are the ones that we fail the most. We don't communicate in a timely manner and we don't console in a timely manner. We don't monitor after we implement the change. We never go back and evaluate and نشوف إذا هذا هو فعلا يعني the treatment for the most cases. The other framework is around, it's from the ashram, which they put the guiding principle in the middle. Outside the framework, they communicate, consult, learn, and report. And inside, of course, the identification, the assessment, the response, which is the treatment, and the evaluation. هذا الموديل حق الأشرم جالس على قاعدة مهمة جدا هي الجوفرنس. إذا أنت ما عندك جوفرنس هذا الفريمورك بيطيح، يعني ما منه فايدة أبدا. تمام؟ Okay. هذول example. These are some examples of the risk. يعني I want to give more time for you guys, but I'm going to send you the slides, so feel free يعني to read through. But these are some of the examples on what can be operational, finance, human resource, legal, technological, and strategic. For risk management, there are a set of recommended policies, and this is again from the American Society for Risk Management. These are your basic risk management policy. You have to have an informed consent or refusal policy. You have to have a disclosure of unanticipated outcomes policy. You have to have complaint management and grievance policy. You have to have significant patient safety event policy. You have to have incident and event reporting policy, patient rights, equipment and or accident reporting, root cause analysis framework and policy, and FMEA procedure. These are the basic policies that can protect the value. These are just the minimum. There should be more. For example, documentation is very, very important to protect the value of the organization from risk management. Supply chain is a huge thing in risk management, especially if we go back to the domain of hazard, which is external. إذا لا سمح الله صار في hurricane ولا صار في flood ممكن إمدادات كلها تنقطع عن المستشفى. فلازم يكون في خطة واضحة إنه okay how we continue to supply. انقطعت الكهرباء مثلا بالحي اللي في مستشفى لازم يكون في generators to continue supplementing the hospital with the electricity. Disaster management policies, all the codes, internal, external, you need to have them to ensure that you protect the organization. So this question for you guys, I want you to think of it. What are other areas, department in healthcare that would have a connection with risk management? This is just to increase your situational awareness. The question that the leadership need to ask are very much the ones that we discuss in the framework. But any leadership should always ask how they actually define the risk. What do they feel is real or perceived risk in their department and their organization? Under risk impact, they need to ask those questions. How often do they occur? The risk, the frequency. What are the financial consequences of these risks? Are they material? What is under risk prioritization? How should we identify risks to be prioritized? You can use those questions as risk assessment to the culture in your organization, and also bring the attention of your leadership to risk management. Under risk treatment, ask how are these risks currently being managed? How is success measured? Is the approach effective? مثلا مدير المستشفى should have those questions in his mind. A risk solution, and the risk solution, what risk management processes are appropriate based upon the findings of the above element? What action plans should be in place? How our risks are being monitored? How will others evaluate the portfolio of risk effectiveness and solution? Questions under strategies. What is the organization mission and vision? We always need to go back and understand what is it that we're doing and where we want to go, and how the ARM strategy around the mission, vision and value of the organization. Under the ownership is how will each division, unit, team contribute to meeting the goals of the enterprise risk management strategies. The strategy here is protecting the hospital mission, vision, and value. And how will team and individual be held accountable for success, which is very important. And this could be a long discussion around really accountability, because I think the word accountability is being overused, but not connected to the real value of accountability as well. So in conclusion, the risk management and the enterprise risk management have their guiding principles. Advance safe and trusted healthcare. Manage uncertainty, maximize value protection and creation. What is our value? We need to define, and values are different from someone to someone, from organization to organization. Encourage multidisciplinary accountability. It's not individual approach, it is a system approach. Optimize organizational readiness. That is really the guiding principle to any risk management. The ultimate aim is increase our readiness. So in case of the increased risk, we are actually ready. Promote positive organizational culture, because remember, it's all about culture. Advanced ERM practice, continuous comprehensiveness, it's something that will be built over years, and it depends on the organization appetite. كيف هم مستعدين، كيف شهيتهم للريسك. يعني أوقات كثيرة you speak to someone يعني مو عاجبك كلامك، أصلا مو مقتنع إنه فعلا ريسك. وشفنا على فكرة leaders يعني بالميديا يعني كثير سخفوا موضوع كورونا، وبالأخير now they're paying the price. Very important as a guiding principle إنه we utilize the data والmetrics to prioritize risks. الداتا need to be converted into information. الinformation هذه تساعد على decision making. لازم we evaluate how we actually present our data. يعني our data when we present it للleadership لازم تكون واضحة، ولازم تكون toward making an action to help them make the decision. Always align risk appetite and tolerance with strategy, to make your business case. So, in summary, this is the risk management processes, like how you see it, all together. I put it in a slide for your reference, yani, if you need to look at it in one glance. These are the reference for my webinar, mainly from a book, اسمه Fundamental of Healthcare Risk Management by Al-Ashram. They sell it on their website, really good, simple يعني بس شوية dense. ومن workshop أنا حضرته بناشفيل بأمريكا قبل سنة عن ال Essentials in Healthcare Risk Management هذا الوركشوب. إن شاء الله كتب يعني المنفعة لنا جميعا، إن شاء الله تكونوا استفدتوا. I'm more than happy now to look at your question. إن شاء الله عندنا وقت to answer those questions. يعطيكم ألف عافية. Okay. حبدأ أحاول أقرأ to read the questions. How it can be used. How can be used like the Fatima. أبغى أجيب الأسئلة من البداية. I would like to learn more about risk management and to know how to do risk assessment, how to identify severity and connect. إن شاء الله إنه تكون يعني this يعني webinar helped you to understand this. What is the actual pathway to identify risk? This is a very good question. Now, when you risk should be inherited يعني بالculture. Like when you walk in the corridor, you should be able to identify the hazard. So the first thing, Asif, is identify the hazard. Okay. Once you identify the hazard, you do quick, risk assessment, which is okay, linking the hazard to the risk. How? Okay. So we identify this hazard. How likely this hazard can cause a problem, and that is your risk, analysis, where you quantify the likelihood with the severity, and then you come up with the matrix. There are two approaches if you want to do it systematically. So conducting risk assessment like quality round, you just go to the unit, identify the hazard, and with the subject matter expert calculate the rating of the risk, which is the severity against the likelihood. The other one is the failure mode and effect analysis, which is looking at the process and identifying how it could go wrong. And I'm more than happy to also talk, designate one whole hour just to talk about failure mode and effect analysis. It's one of my favorite tools, to be honest with you. I love it, and it helps always increase the situational awareness.
Uh,
تفضل. Anyone want to?
yeah,
Let's
hi,
be
hi, Nada.
unmute.
Can I
Hi,
ask a question?
please go ahead.
Yeah, Nada, one thing I've noticed is I've been part of a lot of, these fire drills and disaster management drills and things like that. But I feel that until people actually experience something, they don't realize how serious it is. Now, in Saudi, in 2012, I think, you had the MERS-CoV outbreak, which affected the Middle East as a whole, but mainly in Saudi, right? So
Yes,
you actually had first-hand experience of something similar to what's happening now. So you might
yes.
have actually taken it more seriously than another hospital somewhere else, because for the rest of the hospitals, it's something we've read about or we know in theory. So when you have these drills, people are not that serious about it, or they don't, really analyze the problems. But in Saudi, since you've experienced it, you must have been very well prepared for what's happening now. How do you motivate staff to actually, do these drills, your risk management, with enthusiasm?
Excellent question. There are two things that you can actually, if you study human behaviors, because honestly, being in quality management in general and in risk management in specific, you need to educate yourself a lot and understand how humans behave. This will help you a lot on how you manage and deal with them. So motivating, there is two things. So the motive and the incentive, right? So the motive comes from within the person. So, for example, I'll give you an example. I wanted to get help from someone, and this is additional work, but I want them to help me with the project. So, first of all, you need to understand people's value and start from there. So, adding value to them by being part of this activity will help in the buy-in. The motive comes from within. If they wish to do it by themselves, they'll help you because it's from within. Like if you touch value in them. يعني أنا for me, for example, if anybody mentioned patient safety, oh, this is a patient safety thing, I would jump in. I'm in because protecting patient and patient safety is one of my value. So it becomes something that motivates me to do it. Understanding risk is something I enjoy, so it motivates me to do it. The other way is the incentives. So it's external force where people can be interested. Understand incentive, for example, okay, if you are part of this, what would be something they would be interested in? For example, sending them in business leave, or having them attend this workshop, or having them present the finding themselves, having them part of a publication. So it depends on the people that you're working with. You need to understand your team very well, understand what really a good incentive versus bad incentives, what can motivate them from within, what is it that ignite the passion within them. Having said that, it's also the tone that is set by the leadership in any organization and the culture in any organization. It can affect indirectly on the willingness of everybody's taking the extra mile or having this vigilancy. Culture is something very, very important. Otherwise, it's just going to be individual effort. I hope that I answered your question. If
Yes,
not,
you did. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That was a very good lecture. I learned a lot. And all the very best to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. طيب. Muhammad asked question, how can we utilize risk management improving patient safety It's very important, Muhammad. Actually, the best way to improve patient safety is risk management. If you go back to the domain of risk management, في منهم الأوبريشن وفي الأوبريشنال وفي منهم الكلينيكال ريسك. Clinical risk goes to the incident themselves, because risk management as a framework looks at the bigger picture. After an incident happens, you evaluate the whole process from risk management, and you evaluate the intervention also. And each intervention, you conduct a failure mode and effect analysis, how those interventions could fail and not protect the patient. So patient safety incidents are one of the sources for identifying risk. Applying the risk management framework and managing patient safety can definitely improve patient safety to the core, because it's focused so much on processes rather than individual incident, because it does fix the whole system. That's the intentions anyway. And you always test your improvement and intervention for failure before you implement them. In the normal way, when an incident happens, we come up with a solution and we go and we implement it. We never actually sit and anticipate how this could go wrong, or maybe this is not the right fix. Eventually, the more robust risk management you have, the less harm events you have in your organization. Remember, risk management also is the foundation of the high reliability organization, and high reliability organization focus so much on safety. It's actually their core value by applying the 5 principles. So to answer your question, becoming high reliable organization through risk management framework, increasing the behavioral aspect of the staff working in any hospital, can eventually improve the patient safety. Please tell me, Muhammad, if I did answer your question or not. Okay. So clinical risk, Asif, if I understood your question, how about clinical risk? Because you are not actually doing that. We do clinical risk a lot, actually. When I led the team to establish the risk management section in King Faisal, it was only clinical risk management. We focused so much on the 2 elements, the operations and the clinical risk. Clinical risk was mainly driven from reported incident, but we focus on the residual risk that came out of the root cause analysis. We evaluate the intervention, and if the patient safety staff feel that, yes, we do something, but they still feel it's not enough, risk management takes it on board and look at others and how we can learn and generalize the learning from this clinical risk. Yes, Masha'al, you're right. So when you are conducting your safety round, it is a great opportunity to identify risk if you have the situational awareness. Yani step 1 is the ability to identify hazard in any situation. And this required some expertise on what would be the right design, what would be the right flow for patients, you know. Once you identify the hazard, then your risk management cycle starts from there. قادة المستشفى يعني صراحة يعني it's sad that you have leadership that really underestimate employee safety. But the best approach is communication, ya Muhammad. Yani we need to communicate with our leadership group. Maybe really they're not aware of what's going on, or maybe they're not aware of the consequences of some of the decision. Let us help them make better decision by providing them with the right data in the right format. Is testing infection control precaution could also be risk? Of course, very يعني the hazard here is the pathogen, and the risk here is the يعني the likelihood of being infected, and the accident is being infected. And one of the measures actually to prevent this is actually looking at the infection control measures. Okay, is testing infection control precaution? Is the same question. Okay, المعنى من هو المسؤول في اختيار مستوى الحماية من العدوى في أثناء الأوبئة؟ هل هم إدارة المخاطر أم مكافحة العدوى؟ طبعا احنا يمكن أنا ذكرت لكم إنه المنظمات العالية الموثوقية ولا الهاي ريلابيلتي أورجانيزيشن دائما يرجعون للإكسبرتيز. From experience, the best people in case of a pandemic, endemic, or anything has to do with infection is the infection control. So infection control هنا هم يعتبرون subject matter expert. They lead the team. إدارة المخاطر جزء من التيم، يعني they help with the technical expertise. بس الإكسبرت هم طبعا الانفكشن كنترول. الديسيجن زي كذا يعني مستويات الحماية يعني المفروض تكون collaboratively done أو والtone is set by the hospital leadership themselves. I hope إني I answer your question يا فاطمة. طيب في أحد سأل عن الهيت ماتريكس أو الهيت مو واضح السؤال، إذا ممكن ينعاد السؤال. الترجمة الصحيحة بين الهازارد والريسك، يعني خلينا نشوف الترجمة الصحيحة. Can we say the risk is physical thing while hazard is the consequences from the risk? عبد العزيز لا actually. الريسك is not a physical thing. الهازارد هو الفيزيكال thing. الريسك هو شيء ما تلمسه، هو مدى احتمالية إنه هذا الهازارد يسبب لك أذى. تمام؟ يعني مثلا أنت قاعد على كرسي مكسور. الهازارد الكرسي المكسور، الأذى اللي ممكن يصير لك إنك تطيح ويصير لك إصابة، هذا الأذى الهارم أو الأكسيدنت. الريسك هو مدى احتمالية إن هذا الكرسي يسبب لك وقوع وبالتالي تمرض. What is the difference between quality and risk management? Quality الجودة it's the holistic thing. يعني in general quality so much focus on improving الpractice، تحسين الأداء in general. okay. الريسك مانجمنت لا، تركز على إدارة المخاطر، منع الأذى. okay. لكن everything can be integrated. يعني أنا ممكن I identify risk، اوكي، يعني اتعرف على ريسك ويكون الاكشن عليها مثلا performance improvement project، فكل شيء integrated. بس in theory in general quality يعني بجودة الأداء، والريسك يعني بإدارة المخاطر. يعني واحدة تحسين الأداء والثانية تقليل المخاطر أو تقليل فقدان الفاليو، القيمة اللي أنت يعني تهمك. هل هو القيمة هو البيشنت، فلوس، مبنى، أو شيء زي كذا. إن شاء الله يا تالا إني يكون جاوبتك. طيب سؤال مرة مهم من فهدة، هو كيف يكون دور إدارة المخاطر مع إدارة الأزمات؟ ممتاز جدا. بصراحة إحنا الآن كل شيء صار داخل في بعضه، لكن إدارة المخاطر looks at the hazard from processes point of view أكثر شيء. الأزمات is يعني it's more يعني drastic. يعني أزمة الآن يعني مثلا سمح الله فيضان، مثلا سمح الله الزلازل، يعني شيء على مستوى مرة كبير. هذه هي الأزمات. لكن المخاطر وعلى فكرة يعني في نقاط التقاء بين الديزاستر مانجمنت مع الريسك مانجمنت، لكن الابروتش شوية different. الديزاستر مانجمنت they mitigate، بس أكثر شيء على الريسبونس and recovery يركزون. الريسك مانجمنت أكثر شيء على الميتيجيشن وهو preventing الريسك أو تقليل من الريسك. أتوقع أنه الوقت انتهى، فإن شاء الله يعني جاوبت على أكبر عدد ممكن من الأسئلة. طبعا أنا موجودة دائما على قنوات السوشيال ميديا، if you still have any question لسه عندكم أسئلة أنا ما جاوبتها وتحتاجون توضيح please يعني reach out to me. If you enjoyed today's webinar let me know. تحسوا إنه في فائدة أعمل أكثر حلقات نقاش مواضيع معينة more specification. I'm more than happy to do this. So شكرا جزيلا على اللي بقوا معانا، وشكرا على حضوركم، شكرا على أسئلتكم، أثريتوا طبعا السيشن، و I look forward to meet you in another webinar بإذن الله. Again يعني the intention of doing this is try to donate my time and my knowledge to help during this crisis. So إن شاء الله ربي كتب لها يعني كتب لنا جميعا الفائدة. أتعلم منكم زي ما أنتم تتعلمون مني، وبالنهاية كلنا مسؤولين. فإلى اللقاء إن شاء الله، أراكم يعني في ويبينارات قادمة وجلسات نقاش قادمة.